Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Check it out with Carmella-T. I would love you to jump on board and join us. You know how you go to the thrift store and every now and then you see something that you really love, but it's just not in condition in any manner for you to even consider it. So that does happen sometimes. So I want to share with you today. I'm going to use a blend of sashiko stitching and my own just regular sewing, probably maybe some crochet, and my sashiko patches. And I'm going to mend and redesign and upcycle a scarf. Now I'm going to show you the scarf because I started to sew it and then I thought, well, you know what, I want to share this on a video with everyone because I want to show you when you think something's hopeless, it's not. And the sashiko stitching, as some of you know, some of you don't, but it comes from beautiful Japanese art that was developed in the 1800s by the Japanese farmers to mend clothing that they had already had to other fabrics. And they built garments that were sufficient to be warm enough to be out there farming. And this was a result of not having enough money. It was a result of poverty, really. Now today you'll see that sashiko stitching in higher end designs in clothing nowadays. But it is a beautiful art that was developed amongst the Japanese farming community, so to survive, really. And so I am applying that technique to this scarf. So I want to show you this scarf. I'm going to pull my needle out for now, and I will show you parts of this project as I go forward. But this scarf, look at how torn that is. So that's pretty torn. Now it has a nice length to it. That's my thread that I'm working with. And now the other end of it, look at this, is the tassels are just beautiful, the fringes, but they're missing. So those are missing. Now I'm going to capitalize on some of that because I'm very free flowing type of artist. So I like that. I'm going to probably leave those where they're at. But look at this as a very beautifully fine, tightly woven fabric. And it's a beautiful plaid. And it's a coral type of orange. This is not like orange, but it's blended with tones of a blue-gray. I just love it. And some beige, and then and you can see the stripes and then the tiny checkers. This is a very classic, beautifully well-made scarf. So I am going to mend it and redesign it and upcycle it. And I will share with you parts of the journey as I'm going along. And I'm most likely going to put this up on Mercari, just kind of see what's going on Mercari nowadays. Anyway, so let's get started. Okay. So here I'm really improvising as I go along. And I want to get these edges secure because you don't want to leave the frayed edges like that out. So I'm folding it over and I'm pretty much staying as much as I can with the cut or the tearing that I see, and I am using what in America they would call this a running stitch, and it's a basic sashiko stitch too. It's a running stitch, and I'm pulling it because I like that. So as I go along, I am designing it as I go along. So I couldn't tell you right now exactly what this is going to look like. I mean, I had an idea of the tools and the techniques that I was going to use as I go along. but I am using the sasha coat, and I will probably reinforce this, but this is where I'm at, and I will show you in a minute why I like pretty much the gathering. This, because it does really give it style. I mean, you want, when you make, for me, when I make something or recycle something, I want it to have some style. I don't want it to be a cookie cutter pattern or something that everybody is going to have or see. So that's where I'm at right now, and I'm going to go running stitch all along here, and I'm folding the edge back as I do that, because if you don't fold the edge back, you're just going to have the same problem of fraying, basically. Whoops, I keep catching that. You're going to have the same problem of fraying the edges. You have, you know, that you won't be securing your edges. You'll just be adding to the issue. So you want to, now what you can do, a lot of people do and need to do, and that's good, is take a take a needle and secure it back. I don't do that. I just kind of secure it as I'm going along, because I actually like the effect of the flow of the fabric. As artsy and ridiculous as that may sound to some prominent sewers, they may not go for that, but that's how I do it, and the stitches come out nice and secure because I go back and reinforce them, and this is a nice amount of hemming that is being sewed back. So and you'll see when we're done how that looks. So anyway, that's where I'm at right now, and I will be back shortly. Okay, hi. So I did a whip stitch from the end of my running stitch. I stopped the running stitch. I did a whip stitch at the very end here for a little tiny hem. Now I came back over here where we started, and I decided that I like this kind of hanging down a little bit. So I am adding a blanket stitch. And if you're familiar with that, you add your blanket stitch at the end when you're going to crochet on it onto the fabric. So that's what I'm going to do. And as I'm doing my blanket stitch, I'm folding it, making sure it's secure. And I go through, and with your blanket stitch, what you do is before you pull everything through, you're going to loop your needle through, and you have a little you have a thread that is secure enough so you can put your crochet needle through. So that's what I am working on now, and that's the way this is trending. This is going for me, and I'm loving it. I'm getting a vision together. But you know, each thing I do is different. It's unique because I feel like the fabric takes a life of its own on after time, and it pretty much it's speaking its own style to you as you're going along. Because this material actually, this is a vintage piece, so I didn't say that, but this is definitely a vintage piece, and it's very thin. So I'm using a fine needle, and I'm using, this is a strong thread. I have to say this isn't a fine thread. This is, it's more of a crochet thread. This is actually what I'm going to use to crochet. So that's going to be the next stop, and I'll show you what that all looks like as I start working on that. Okay, well, we are nearing the end of this scarf, although we have much designing left to do and work to do. So I am at the point where for this end of the scarf, I have just stopped for a few minutes with the crochet. I just kind of want to take in the little bit that I've put on there and kind of take in that design. And on the other side of it, I did sew on a few pieces of fabric with a couple little sashiko stitches. This fabric is so thin that piecing other sashiko pieces on here really should be thin too. This piece is very thin because this is actually silk woven. This is vintage silk woven. And this little piece here is a denim. That's a denim. And I take a risk doing that because sometimes with these pieces, if you don't have the right needle and you start sewing, the hole that you're putting that needle through the fabric could actually ruin the fabric. So, but I did dare to put a little piece of denim, and it went through beautifully. So I did keep that there. Now I'm going to share with you some of the pieces that I'm looking at as I continue designing at this stage of the upcycling of this scarf. And I am looking at colors that I think are and fabrics that are similar to the scarf or that will not clash. But you know, as I say that, I also, if I come across a color that does you would think it clashes and it actually complements it or creates an art statement, I'm going to use it. I will use it. So so far I've got these light greens here, and I've actually got all colors here. I've got this, and that's actually some contrast, but the reason it's flowing, even though it's geometrically different and everything, the reason this is flowing is that there's blue, and in here you have the blue tone, the blue gray tones. So that's, and then you have the off-white, and then here you have the white. So those are complementing each other. And here, if you look at this, take a look at this. This color, this is very different. Actually, this fabric might be too different, but if this is put on the right way, this is a hot pink with different yellows in it. It actually could complement it maybe with the right design. So I have that one out. I'm going to play around with that. This is a beautiful silk vintage necktie scarf. This is a fashion scarf. So I don't think I'm going to take this apart to complement this. Now, what I could do is sew it on here, either horizontally or vertically, however I think it would go. That's an idea. So I'm going to play around with that. But I would not, I won't cut that up because this is, again, this is woven silk vintage scarf. So I'm not going to, you know, some pieces, some art pieces by designers, even if they are 30 years old, they really don't need to be upcycled or touched in any way because they typically are classic. They're a classic design. So you can use them with your outfit timelessly, and they're beautiful. So some pieces you don't need to upcycle. You just need to take care of and, you know, work it to your fashion. And so then I have this. This is a piece of cotton, thin cotton. So that might go in a certain way. And with sashiko, I probably will take sashiko is this. This is sashiko. These are sashiko pieces. But these are denim. So when I make a sashiko piece for this thin woven scarf to upcycle it, I'm going to use thin pieces of fabric. You know, I'm going to use the light linens or the silk. And those are not easy to work with, by the way. You have to really take your time with piecing those together. However, denim and cotton, and these are easier. These flow a little easier just because the fabric doesn't move on you as you're working. So, and then this is another piece I'm thinking of using. Now this is actually very beautiful, and you know, I want to say cliche because the colors are very similar in the floral design, and then you have your plaid classic design, and they go very well. They go very well. So we'll see, and that's the point I'm at. And the next part of this will be just about done with this scarf. Okay, so voila, we have finished the scarf, and I focused heavily on the ends of the scarf and didn't put anything in the middle, just left it as it is. What was determining my decision where to put the sashiko patches was I was looking at places in the fabric that were weakened, or where the thread was pulling, and this is exactly where it was pulling. And so I went with, only because I just love the look actually of the black. Now when I was talking to you, I kept looking at colors that were similar. You know, once you get in the creative process, you realize what really looks good. You know, there's no predetermination on it. So I had out all my pieces of fabric and I was placing them on here. The blue mandala piece I was showing you, I cut it in half here. I put a little bit over here and here, and sewed them on the sashiko style, and I love it. I absolutely love this. So I'll pull it up close so you can see. And that's what the end looks like there. And this looks like a very unique artsy scarf. And here with the crochet, what I did is I gave it fringes here, which you can't see unless I bring it up close. But those are the fringes that I just wanted to bunch them together to give it a little more texture over here. And I left this where I did the whip stitches. I left that completely as it is, because the reason I left it is that I just love the look of how it flowed. I didn't want to inhibit that at all. So that is the scarf is done. I did put a little piece up here, very little, and that is the green and little orange and a little blue floral there. But you know, it came out, I believe, beautifully. And you have the difference of the original fringes over on this side, and this was the side that was all cut up, as you know, and torn and just really needed work. So that's how it flows. So I hope that inspires you to pick up that scarf that you see in the thrift shop you really want and you think it's too worn out. Bring it home, work on it, do your creative process, and make it beautiful and make it you. Okay, thank you. Have a beautiful day.